Where did all the long skirts come from? I just had some questions for the girls and for myself, mainly for myself. But I want you guys to think about the questions with me and feel free, please. Communicate with me, talk to me, answer these three questions in the comments below, right? So, my three main questions are: one, where did all the long skirts come from? Yeah, where did they all come from? Two, are we leaning more conservative? Aside, this is not a critique of any religion, any practice, any study. That is not my specialty, nor is it my duty to critique these institutions. And then my last question is, who does this serve? So yeah, summer 2024. I would argue a little bit before that, maybe spring 2024, but definitely summer 2024. I saw the rise in long, flowy skirts, right? They were back. They were back heavy. They were giving Mamma Mia. They were giving, honestly, you know, where they also kind of came attached to, and this is kind of like if you follow heavy fashion trends, like I follow fashion trends super heavy. I follow them to see them, like as an art, and as a girl who loves data, I follow them to follow them. Yeah, because they're fun. But two, to get an analysis on what the world is thinking, right? What drink is the fashion world drinking right now? So in that time, we had this rise, and there was this little debate that came up where these girls went to a wedding and they were saying it was like European summer or something like that, and they were basically wearing saris, or like traditional Indian garments, but they were calling them like European summer, and it was all about being covered and chic and classy, I would say. And it's so interesting because those words obviously, tell a story of their own, right? But it was very interesting and very telling to kind of see where, from that little TikTok, what sprouted out of this. And I don't think the skirt trend sprouted out of this, but it definitely was like a cousin of that conversation. At the same time that this was happening, right, it was everyone telling us that we're no longer going to weddings showing tatas. We're no longer going to weddings even showing a belly button. We're even covering our shoulders. We're not even showing ankles. So it's very interesting. And it's like, okay, where did this come from? And my answer, write your answer below. My answer is, this comes from the fact that I believe Gen Z is a little bit more susceptible to conservative propaganda than millennials. I'm a millennial. Did I just make it by a slight minute? Yeah, but it makes all the difference. I'm okay with being called old, baby. I am. I'm about to turn 30. I'm okay with being called old. However, I think about when we have conversations about propaganda and what it looks like, we have a new age of media. Propaganda is no longer drawings in a newspaper. It's no longer false articles on the internet. It's no longer commercials or just things you see in shows. Propaganda now lives in social media, right? It's in how stories are told. It's the keywords that are being used. For example, women who really enjoy sports, who watch the NBA, might get a message saying, yeah, we love seeing real women in sports, right? And we're like, yeah, we love seeing real women in sports, but what is that really saying? Is this a bite at, the LGBTQ community? Something like that. And it's like, oh, I would never think of that. Of course you wouldn't, right? But the more you're hearing real women, the more you're believing real women, as if there's something to be a real woman. Whether you believe that or not, that's none of my business. I'm telling you my idea. So my belief is that Long skirts are coming in because someone told you they were cute. You believe they were cute. You follow the trend. And now you're a little bit conservative leaning. You didn't even know. You didn't even know, girl. You didn't even know you were conservative leaning. I didn't even know either. I took a little look and said, is that me? Is that me? So yes, the question is, if we're going by Gen Z leading our trends, right, as the main focus group right now, as the people who shop, as the people that influence our markets, and as in who they're marketing to, I think there is a little bit of a right lean. I think that this was a build to this. I don't think that it happened overnight. I think there were whispers through the night that were heard in your sleep, aka social media, and you woke up and you didn't even realize who you became. I also feel like a bit of this has something to do with the fact that millennials did a lot of tearing away from the church and tearing away from religious institutions. And because of that came a group of people who had nothing to believe in. And I said that in my little quoting of Kendrick. Sort of. I think that's more of an interpolation. I'm not sure. I'm talking about the line, and I believe Euphoria. Or, no. Meet the Grams. Anyway, I was talking mainly about the idea that, like, the generation before millennials were heavy on having the religious institution guide the community, having something to fall back on. I believe that there is a crisis that Gen Z doesn't have a higher thing to believe in, right? Like, in the same way we have these institutions that guided a lot of millennials, they tore away with it and they took the bits and pieces that served them and moved forward. I don't think Gen Z is having the same experience. A lot of them weren't forced to go to church. A lot of them weren't forced to go to the mosque or to sit in a meeting with family and discuss whatever religious beliefs they had. And therefore, their clutching to a sense of reason is very different than millennials. I'm grouping myself with that because I was obviously forced to go to church. So I definitely resonate with understanding and wanting something that is an anchor in your beliefs, an anchor in your story, right? And something that grounds you when you're feeling sad, and not just everything being crash out, every day crashing out because you have nothing to hold you solid, you know? And I guess the question that comes out of this usually is like, okay, what is the opposite of conservatism? And that's progression. And my question to many people who lean conservative, what are you trying to conserve? It's just a question. It's not a bite. It's not me trying to be smart. But what are you trying to conserve in these current times? Is it the traditions of your people? Is it the traditions of your religious beliefs? If you do have answers for those, feel free to comment in the comments. Comment in the comments. Nothing. Don't get rowdy. Just name me new. And nobody get rowdy with people who leave their answers. What are we trying to conserve? Do we feel like we've moved too far away from what made us a solid people that we have to go back or attempt to conserve? Because as someone who genuinely sees themselves as a progressive, I would say that there are many things we need to stop conserving because they no longer serve us. And at every time that we kind of wrap ourselves into the chokehold of like conserving it and keeping it, people get hurt. And the people who often get hurt are the people who had nothing to do with this fight. Or more so, the people who are innocent in this fight, but aren't the ones fighting. They aren't even a part of either side. And this looks like people in, more deserving, underserved communities. This looks like people who are forced into shelters because of economic struggle, whether we're trying to lean left or right. Because I think often we see conservatism and progression as two ends of a political spectrum, but it's also about how we monitor our progression as a society of people, right? Do we want to say the same without progression? Because let me tell you, what conservatism moves is the lack of, not just because I think people always attach it to, science and whatever, but the leak of conservatism into some of our schools took away the arts. And y'all didn't even see that. Y'all didn't even peep that. Y'all did not even peep. We were holding on so much to STEM to showcase that we're so strong, we're so liberal, we're thinking with science, but we didn't even think about the things that truly allow us to think fluidly and complex ideas, right? That don't necessarily stem from something that someone already told us, and that's the art. And I wonder, right? Like my third question, who does this serve? Who benefits the most from us conserving the now, right? Before we go into that, a very, very serious note. 1 in 8 women today will experience sexual assault before the age of 18. Why do I tell you this fact? I tell you this fact to acknowledge that it happens in places like Afghanistan in very high rates. It also happens in the United States in high rates. In Afghanistan, we can't really get an accurate number because there aren't a lot of people reporting. There are places like Sweden, that's a part of the Western world, that also has really high rates of sexual assault. There's also places like the Netherlands that has really, really high rates of sexual assault. It's almost normalized and seen as a menial crime. Why am I talking about sexual assault? I'm talking about sexual assault, particularly in women, because I want to really nail down the idea that regardless of how socially conservative you are, whether it's like people from Bangladesh or people from Afghanistan, or socially liberal you are, like the States or the UK or Canada, sexual assault occurs. It's not something that's going to necessarily change by the clothing you wear or how socially conservative or liberal you are. It occurs because the perpetrators are out there and need to be stopped. That's why it occurs. So when people have conversations about conservatism and they talk about how it's also a play to keep women safe, I'll always tell them that the statistics disagree. The statistics disagree. Many women, even right in a liberal country like America, well, liberal-ish now, still experience it when they're wearing full pants, when they're going to work, when they're not wearing anything that's slightly explicit, because the clothes do not cause the rape. If they did, the clothes would be in jail, baby, but they're not. They're on Shein and wherever else you buy your clothes, Aritzia, that's where the clothes are at. They're not in jail. So this really nails down the idea for me that, like, I'm not sure conservatism truly serves the women that carry it as a badge of honor. I do think there's the other idea that it makes them classy or chic. And my response to that is, classy as who? Chic as who? Is it that we're trying to aspire to be like the top 1%? Because I guarantee you, baby, no matter what you put on, you ain't gonna look like them. More so because they do not value your life. If they did, they would not be worried about whether or not your skirt is long or short. They would be worried about why your insulin went from $6 to now $80, or in some places $35. So when we say it makes us more classy, it makes us more chic, my question always is, to be more like who? What were you like before that this classifies you? And like what class? I know it got a little bit dark there, but that's my point, right? I read this essay and I'm going to read the title. It's called Skirt Length and Interest Rates. And it's an essay that discusses basically the tie of style and the economy. And it kind of talks about the hemline index. It's by the Trend Gist. And it's written by Judith. Go read the article. It's a great article. It just gives a little snippet of like kind of what I'm talking about versus the economy, and how the economy kind of mirrors fashion, and that makes sense. So as we're going into a more conservative era, where we have to be conservative with our money, I guess it also leaks into our hemlines. My question though, in this time where I think people can have conversations about, okay, why are we doing this? What is the point? What are we getting out of this? I really want you to ask yourself those questions. Am I doing this because it's me, or have I been influenced to think that this is chic, to think that this is classier, to think that I am being more conservative? And if I'm being more conservative, what am I trying to conserve? Because I have this big take, and this is a really big one, the girls might eat me up in the comments for this, I have this big take that you can be conservative without being traditionalist. Maybe. But I have an even bigger take that there are people who are traditionalists that aren't necessarily conservative, right? They are traditional for their individual self, but don't necessarily believe that we have to all aspire to conservative rituals. And that's a video for another day, whatever. But those kind of conversations are the ones that I want to have, right? And these are the questions that I'm asking myself. And maybe you can answer these questions too, because it's getting rowdy out there. The girls are saying that they're not wearing small skirts anymore, short skirts no more, because they said that it's not cute. It's not really giving classy. And they're like, you're 30 and you're wearing a mini skirt? I'm so sorry. What's the age range on a mini skirt? Girl, I don't know. All I got to say is, when you get into the store and you're buying that skirt, check the hemline.